Hmm? Yep, here I am, Charles Moscowitz here, and my guest is Julio Rivera. He is the editor and publisher of Reactionary Times, calling us or coming here from Bulgaria.
hmm
Julio, thanks for joining me.
It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Julio, what's going on over there in Bulgaria, and how are they responding to the virus pandemic?
Well, you know what? We have a limited number of cases here. This is a country with a smaller population. Bulgaria only has about upwards of about 7.2 or 3 million people total, which is
Mm.
less than the population of just New York City. So it's not really a huge country. We're here in the Balkans. It's Eastern Europe. We border Turkey. Um, Basically, we have, I think, a spattering of small smattering of cases, about less than 200, I believe, and we've only had, I believe, less than 10 people die. But that didn't stop them from issuing the same type of restrictive lockdown orders and self quarantine and social distancing that you're seeing in America right now. So we've been originally we were given an order for 14 days, starting, I believe it was the 15th, and we were supposed to be kind of locked down until the end of this week, but now that's been extended. Last week, the Bulgarian parliament voted to actually mobilize the military in an effort to try to enforce this social distancing and self quarantining, and actually giving the military the power to hold people who are there finding to be in violation of this order for the police. So, it's kind of, I mean, I think that they're going completely overboard when you consider the amount of cases that we actually have here. And daily, the mortality rate globally goes down in a sense because we're finding out that more people have this. And yes, more people are dying. But I mean, a lot of people are recovering and people are showing
Mm.
minor symptoms. And this is basically, in a sense, another respiratory sort of viral infection. And it's not, the Black Plague, let's call it,
Right. No, I get that. I mean, it's in a way, it's similar to the swine flu, and yeah, there is going to be mortality for people who are older or who have pre-existing conditions, but I don't recall this kind of a reaction. I mean, I think that maybe the one difference is they say this one's more contagious than the others, so it's not a bad idea to keep your distance, to keep 6 feet away from people during this time. Maybe if you are vulnerable health wise, to stay in. And I hope that there can be a vaccine and a testing developed pretty soon. But the thing that worries me from a political standpoint is that we're getting used to this idea of almost a totalitarian system or situation where we're like literally told by the government that we have to stay in. And so it means ultimate control. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a scary step towards, or maybe a dress rehearsal for a new global order, where the government has total control of the citizens. They're talking about, in like New Jersey, for instance, right? People are using this, the whole credo of never let a good crisis go to waste. We've seen, what the Democrats obviously did with the stimulus bill, but in New Jersey, they've actually shut off the portal on the New Jersey State website to put in applications for a gun permit. Now, where's the correlation between putting in an application for a gun permit and staying inside and self quarantining because of the coronavirus? It's absolutely ridiculous. But they're going to chip away at our rights. They're going to use this opportunity to do so. Make no mistake.
Yeah, and I think also that younger people who kind of came of age in our government oriented education system, they don't understand, the nature of the Constitution and individual rights, and they're kind of almost conditioned to this. And now with this little experiment, and again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't stay in. I'm staying in. Yeah, I'm not saying there isn't a big problem out there. So don't get me wrong here, but we're talking about the politics of it right now. That they're getting used to this idea that they stay in, they look at the web, which they want to control more, and and the Congress passes the stimulus package, which is the biggest in history, which is something they would never have been able to have done without this. Um, and again, I mean, there was some reasons for it, but it seems to be above and beyond. that we're being conditioned, as you say, to accept this massive role of the state. And I don't know, I wonder if it's a reaction against Trump, whom they despise, and against things like Brexit in England and the Yellow Jackets in France and other movements which are moving toward a reassertion of rights and individual rights. I mean, now all those things, there's like the rug being pulled out from under it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, because we can't assemble all the massive Trump rallies that were occurring, from coast to coast all across America. The yellow vest protests in France that were happening in consecutive weeks for like 6 months in a row. We had obviously the Hong Kong protest, and that was the epicenter of
that's right
there in China. So I wouldn't be surprised, if this was sort of let out intentionally, but I think that ultimate blame for this, we have a lot of people in America, the mainstream media, left-leaning pundits and politicians are blaming President Trump for the response. But the fact of the matter is that the blame lies squarely on the shoulders of the Chinese Communist government, which suppressed information for they had. They were not forthright. They were not truthful. And I think that that's the reason why it spread. And then you have Europe, where I'm at. You had a lot of stupid leaders that did not want to enforce a travel ban, or did not want to start a travel ban coming from China out of fear of being labeled xenophobic. I mean, how ridiculous is that? And then you look at all the people that are dying in Italy. But, some interesting statistics have come out about that. I mean, you see that in Italy, yes, there's a high mortality rate, but the people that are dying are very old. Italy has the second oldest population on Earth, behind Japan.
Right,
so a lot of old people dying. And then in Europe, like myself, what am I doing here? I'm smoking. Everybody in Europe smokes, and it's a respiratory infection. So that makes it particularly more dangerous in a place like Europe versus America, where if you're a smoker, you're kind of a pariah at this point.
Right, and in a way, it's an attempt to control that. So, there is a certain social agenda to it. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not being a conspiracy theorist here and saying that they cooked this thing up, but I'm saying that given the fact that it's happening, there's, like, as you say, the famous statement by Rahm Emanuel, Obama's chief of staff, never let a good crisis go to waste. Mm-hmm. They're using this as a way to further their own agenda. We had the mayor of New York, de Blasio, say that he called for the nationalization of businesses. That's what they did in Cuba, right? I mean, that's what they did in communist countries. You have, people like AOC in Washington. This is a chance to enact the so-called Green New Deal, and they're pushing for that, but they didn't get away with that. They got away with a little of it, but the thing is that they're openly trying to transform the country into a more totalitarian, collectivist nation. So, whether or not this is a conspiracy, I'm not saying it is. I have no idea. What do I know? The fact is that it is a situation on the ground, and it can be exploited by people who have a totalitarian leftist agenda. We have to be careful.
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, I think that, once you, give up or surrender certain rights, it's hard to get them back. That's generally the way it works with progressive governments. I think President Trump is a fighter, though. I think that he's not going to allow that to happen. I think that a lot of this and the sensationalizing of this and the fear mongering and, the media machine that's trying to scare Americans more than I think that it is called for in, with what's actually going on and what the numbers are actually telling us. They're trying to basically usurp his presidency, and they're trying to undo all of his record economic gains, and they're basically trying to put him in a tough position headed into this election. Now, one of the things that's working in the favor of, freedom-loving Americans and conservatives is the fact that, the chief competition on the other side is a bungling idiot. I mean, you got Joe Biden is probably one of the worst. And I thought Hillary Clinton was one of the worst, most flawed presidential candidates in history. I think Joe Biden has, pardon the pun, trumped her. because he's absolutely worse. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if, we were talking about a couple of weeks ago before this all blew up, when Bernie Sanders was winning all the early primaries, the possibility of a brokered convention to try to get, Bernie Sanders out of that top seat, should he have amassed those delegates. Obviously Super Tuesday kind of put an end to Bernie Sanders, but I wouldn't be surprised again, because of the super delegate system in the Democrat Party, that we probably may have a brokered convention where somebody perhaps like Governor Cuomo, who's been out there all the time, trying to give him a better account of himself, if he doesn't try to come out and try to, assert himself as the Democrat.
Not to mention Hillary herself, if she's not indicted.
Well, she's never going to go away. She's like a cockroach.
No. Nuclear vampires. They're going to suck off the public since he was governor of Arkansas.
Can we have somebody with coronavirus cough on her? I mean, like.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, including my worst enemies. But I will say this. I mean, I thank God that Trump is president right now, because if it had been a liberal Democrat in office, we'd have martial law, we would have concentration camps, we would have complete control of speech, we would have control of property. I mean, they would have gone whole hog with this. And Trump has been a very moderating force standing up against that. Recently, there was the business of this drug called chloroquine that has been very effective in treating coronavirus in France. It's being used even in New York right now in the hospitals. It's being tested. And the result is very positive. Not that people should take it. It's a prescription. It's a dangerous drug. I just had a doctor on who said that there are side effects to it. It's only to be used if you really have the virus and you're in the virus and with a prescription and under a doctor's supervision. However, the results of it have been incredibly positive, and yet the media, the left, is denigrating it. They're trying to attack Trump. They don't like it because Trump likes it, and they're attacking him. But furthermore, I think that it's the kind of thing that could put an end to this thing too quickly, maybe, for them. I don't mean to be cynical here. But if you have a drug that costs $20 on the shelf and you get a prescription and it has a 95% chance of curing coronavirus, that's going to end the pandemic. And, they maybe want to think that they want to drag it out a little longer, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that's why I made the point, and that's why I unapologetically made the joke about Hillary Clinton and the coughing, is that these people are pure evil. And these people would go ahead and destroy our way of lives. These people right now that are perpetuating this, that maybe want this, that are in part of this so-called, let's say there is a conspiracy. These people want to bring pain and suffering to the American people. They want to bring a great global recession so that they can get President Trump out of office. So if they want to go ahead and bring about a global event that's going to cause 20 to 30% unemployment, people are going to die. People are going to commit suicide. There's going to be crime in the street. Once you force people into poverty, what do people turn to? They turn to crime. So there's going to be people who are going to be worried in their homes that they're going to be ransacked. They're going to be robbed. There's going to be, they're going to have their food stolen. They're going to have their daughters raped and their wives raped, and all these horrible things are going to happen just because these globalist elitists, these global elitists want to get President Trump out of office. So I have no sympathy for these animals that would want to inflict that upon the American people, an American society, an American economy that was doing better than it ever has under President Trump.
Oh, I know. What's with the baseball regalia?
Okay, well, today was supposed to be opening day, so I've been wearing a baseball jersey all day. I'm actually a Mets fan. I spend a lot of time in Los Angeles on the West Coast when we're not on lockdown and when there aren't travel restrictions. And I was actually supposed to be in LA starting April 1st, and I was supposed to go see a Dodgers game while I was there. So I'm a little bit bummed out about the whole this whole lockdown and all that kind of stuff. So to cheer myself up, I've been watching MLB Network and wearing my Dodgers stuff all day. But let's go Mets. I got
right. Well,
go,
you
man.
and a lot of us. Julio, talk a little bit about your website. It's really quite good. It's quite comprehensive. Reactionary Times, the voice of the reactionary revolution.
Yes, reactionarytimes.com. Would ask all your viewers to go and check out our site. We are a news site. We don't particularly lean in any direction with the news. We're who, what, when, where, why. However, we do have a great opinion section with some of the sharpest minds in the conservative movement providing us content on a regular basis. So you're going to read a lot of great conservative editorials on reactionarytimes.com. We also have a television show, Reactionary Times TV. Last week we had Brigadier General Robert Spalding. We've had a great guest. We had the artist Sabo. We've had Kelly Sadler, who runs one of the bigger Trump super PACs, on the show. This week, we're going to have Alan West, the great conservative Alan West, who is actually running for Congress in the state of Texas.
Great.
And hopefully he'll have a seat there. But it's a great website. People really should check out reactionarytimes.com for all their news and conservative opinion and multimedia.
Excellent. Really good. I'll be keeping an eye on it. Like to have you back occasionally to do an update on what you're working on over there. Julio Rivera, I want to thank you very much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you so much, and God bless. Stay safe, my man.
Thank you. You too. Take care.